Welcome to the Chill Stoic, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. This is a space for calm strength, clear thinking, and quiet confidence. If you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things but still not getting the respect you deserve, you're not alone. The truth is, in a world that rewards noise, those who speak with presence often get overlooked. But not here. Here, we learn to lead ourselves before we try to lead anyone else. In this episode, we're diving into 6 Stoic lessons that will change the way you speak, lead, and live. These are not surface-level tips. These are mindset shifts that build quiet authority from the inside out. So if you're ready to stop chasing approval, start commanding respect, and live with more clarity, calm, and conviction, let's begin. Lesson 1. Stop seeking validation from others. Let's get real for a moment. One of the fastest ways to lose both your self-respect and the respect of others is to live for their approval. To constantly check if you're good enough in someone else's eyes. To measure your worth by how many likes, compliments, nods, or affirmations you get. And yet, we all fall into that trap. It starts subtly. Maybe you post something and keep checking for feedback. Maybe you change your tone depending on who's in the room. Maybe you hold back what you really think, just to stay agreeable. And before you know it, you're no longer living for you. You're performing for them. But here's what Stoicism teaches us. Respect is not something you chase. It's something you cultivate from within. Because the moment you start living for someone else's validation, you give them the keys to your peace. And worse, you lose touch with who you actually are. I used to do this all the time. In meetings, I'd phrase ideas in ways I thought others would like. I wouldn't challenge opinions I disagreed with, because I wanted to be seen as collaborative. In friendships, I'd say yes even when I didn't want to, just so I wouldn't be judged. And the irony? The more I tried to win people's approval, the less respect I got. And deep down, I respected myself even less. It's a hollow game. You keep trying to earn gold stars from people who don't even know your whole story. And each time they approve of you, it feels good, but only for a moment. Then the hunger returns. More praise, more recognition, more belonging, and suddenly, your identity depends on applause. That's not living. That's surviving on external fuel that runs out fast. The Stoics saw this clearly. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The same applies to other people's opinions. You can't control what they think. You can't control what they say. What you can control is whether or not you hand them power over your emotional state. So how do you break free? You start by coming home to yourself. You stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Do I like who I am when I'm with them?" You stop thinking, "Will they approve?" and start asking, "Does this align with my values?" That's where the shift happens. When your decisions are grounded in your principles, not in popularity, you begin to walk differently, speak differently, breathe differently. You stand firmer, and people feel it. They might not always like it, but they will respect it. Because people don't respect perfection. They respect presence. They respect people who own their flaws, who speak their truth without arrogance, who know who they are without needing to broadcast it. And here's what I've learned firsthand. When you stop chasing validation, something wild happens. The right people begin to show up. Not because you're trying to win them, but because you're finally being you. Unfiltered, clear, grounded. You no longer need to beg to belong. You simply belong, with yourself. So if you've been measuring your worth by someone else's scoreboard, it's time to step off that field. You don't need to prove anything to anyone but the person you see in the mirror. Let that be your metric. Let your own alignment, your own integrity, your own truth be enough. Because when you respect yourself first, the world adjusts. Lesson 2. Stop letting emotions control you. Let's talk about something most people never learn how to do, and it quietly ruins relationships, careers, and even self-worth. I'm talking about emotional control, not suppression, not avoidance, but true self-mastery. Because nothing strips you of respect faster than being emotionally reactive. You can be brilliant, kind, full of potential, but if you explode at every inconvenience or shut down at every conflict, people stop trusting your stability. And without stability, respect disappears. Now here's the hard truth. Emotions aren't the problem. You're human. You'll feel anger. You'll feel sadness. You'll feel frustration, fear, shame, disappointment. That's part of being alive. But letting those emotions run the show? That's a choice. That's what separates those who are ruled by life from those who lead it. Stoicism teaches us that you don't have to act on everything you feel. You can observe an emotion, acknowledge it, and still choose your response. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That sentence alone has saved me in moments where I wanted to react, lash out, or defend myself impulsively. I used to be very reactive. If someone said something rude, I snapped back. If a plan changed unexpectedly, I panicked. If something didn't go my way, I'd stew in frustration and take it out on the people closest to me. And afterward, I'd feel regret, shame, like I wasn't in control of myself. Because I wasn't. But when I started learning the Stoic way, everything shifted. The Stoics don't tell you to stop feeling. They tell you to stop being ruled by what you feel. Emotions are messengers. They tell you something's wrong, something's important, something needs attention, but they are not always the best guides for action. The difference between a reaction and a response is a breath, a pause, a moment of space to check yourself before you charge forward. And in that space lies power. Here's a truth most people miss. Being calm under pressure isn't about pretending you don't feel anything. It's about standing firm despite the storm inside. It's about choosing clarity over chaos. And every time you do that, you build something stronger than a perfect moment. You build trust. People are drawn to those who can stay grounded when things fall apart. Not because they're emotionless, but because they don't let emotions drag them into behavior they'll regret. And here's what else I've learned. When you stop letting emotions control your actions, you gain a deeper respect for yourself. You stop over-explaining, overreacting, over-apologizing. You start speaking when it matters, not because you feel like exploding, but because your values say something needs to be said. So how do you begin? Start by recognizing your emotional triggers. Notice the moments where you tend to lose your balance. Is it when you feel misunderstood, dismissed, challenged? In those moments, take a breath, create space, ask yourself, does this reaction align with who I want to be? And if not, let it pass. You don't need to respond to everything immediately. You don't need to defend your ego every time it feels bruised. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to choose silence, stillness, and steady presence. Because at the end of the day, emotional control isn't about being less human. It's about being more intentional. And people respect those who act with intention, not impulse. So the next time you feel yourself boiling over or breaking down, remember, you are not your emotions. You are the awareness behind them. And when you learn to pause, breathe, and act from principle, not from pain, you become someone others look up to. That's not just self-control. That's self-respect in motion. Lesson 3. Stop avoiding difficult conversations. Let's be honest, most of us hate conflict. We avoid it, we delay it, we sugarcoat it, we tell ourselves that silence is better than stirring things up. But the truth is, avoiding difficult conversations doesn't protect peace, it poisons it slowly. What you avoid doesn't go away. It grows, it festers, it turns into resentment, confusion, and disconnection. And one day, you look around and realize, what could have been resolved in a 10-minute honest talk has now become a fractured relationship. I know this pattern all too well. There were moments in my life where I stayed silent to keep the peace with friends, coworkers, even family. I'd tell myself it wasn't the right time, that I didn't want to hurt their feelings, that maybe the problem would work itself out. But it didn't. It never did. All it did was eat away at my integrity. I began feeling fake, like I was betraying myself just to keep everyone else comfortable. Stoicism teaches us that courage is a virtue. And courage doesn't always look like fighting dragons. Sometimes, it looks like saying, "We need to talk." Sometimes it's telling the truth when your voice shakes. Sometimes it's choosing discomfort now instead of disaster later. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." That obstacle you're avoiding? That hard conversation you keep dodging? That's the path forward. That's the moment of growth. And the sooner you face it, the sooner you reclaim your power. You don't earn respect by pretending everything's fine. You earn it by being willing to face what's real, even when it's messy. When you speak up, calmly, clearly, respectfully, you're not starting a war. You're clearing the air. You're creating space for clarity, for honesty, for resolution. Avoiding doesn't make things easier. It just delays the inevitable. And the longer you wait, the harder it gets. Think about someone in your life you've avoided talking to. Someone you owe a boundary to. Or an apology. Or a truth. What's stopping you? Fear? Pride? Comfort? Whatever it is, I promise you this. Having that conversation, even if it's awkward, will liberate you. You'll sleep better. You'll breathe deeper. You'll respect yourself more because you didn't run. And no, it doesn't mean you have to be harsh. Stoicism doesn't teach cold confrontation. It teaches clarity with composure. Speak from your values, not from your anger. Focus on the issue, not the person. Say what needs to be said, and leave the rest behind. Because difficult conversations, when done right, don't break relationships. They strengthen them. They build trust. They show maturity. They reveal character. When someone knows you'll tell the truth, even when it's hard, they begin to trust you on a deeper level. And you begin to trust yourself. Avoiding discomfort isn't stoic. Facing it with grace is. The next time you feel that tension in your gut, that signal that something needs to be addressed, don't run. Don't wait. Don't fake a smile and swallow your truth. Take a breath. Speak calmly. Stand firm. Because when you stop avoiding difficult conversations, you start creating real relationships, ones built on respect, not on silence. Lesson 4. Stop making excuses. Let's talk about one of the most subtle yet destructive habits we carry, making excuses. We do it to protect ourselves, to shield our ego, to explain away mistakes without confronting the truth. And on the surface, it seems harmless. It wasn't my fault. I didn't have enough time. They didn't give me a fair shot. But underneath every excuse lies the same dangerous belief, that we are not fully responsible for our lives. And when you believe that, you give away your power, your credibility, and your self-respect, piece by piece. I know this pattern because I used to live it. When something went wrong at work, I blamed the deadline. When I missed a goal, I blamed the weather, the system, the people around me. And for a while, it worked. People nodded. They empathized. But over time, they also stopped trusting me. Because deep down, everyone knows the truth. Excuses are a mask for fear, laziness, or a refusal to grow. They don't make you look smarter. They make you look unreliable. Stoicism teaches us to take full ownership of what we can control, our actions, our attitude, our response. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That principle is simple, but life-changing. When you stop making excuses and start owning your choices, even your failures become a source of strength. People respect those who stand in their mistakes, learn from them, and move forward with humility. I remember a turning point in my life when I completely dropped the script. I had missed a major deadline that affected my team. I wanted so badly to blame the backlogs, the miscommunication, anything but myself. But instead, I looked them in the eye and said, "That was on me. I should have planned better. I'll fix it." And you know what happened? They didn't tear me down. They didn't attack me. In fact, they respected me more, because I showed maturity, because I showed that I could be trusted, not to be perfect, but to be accountable. You see, making excuses is a short-term escape that leads to long-term weakness. It keeps you stuck. It prevents growth. And it chips away at the one thing you need to earn lasting respect, integrity. When you stop making excuses, you show others that you are in charge of your life. That you are not waiting for better conditions, or a break, or someone else to fix it. You are the one who will fix it. And that mindset is magnetic. People want to work with, follow, and trust those who take ownership. It doesn't mean you'll never fail. It means you'll never run from failure. That's strength. That's leadership. That's real self-respect. So the next time you're tempted to shift blame, pause. Ask yourself, what could I have done differently? Be honest, be humble, and most importantly, commit to doing better. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more people who are willing to be responsible. Own your story, own your flaws, own your growth, and you'll earn a level of respect no excuse could ever buy. Lesson 5. Stop seeking external validation. There's a quiet kind of suffering that most people never talk about, the constant craving for someone else's approval. We look outward, waiting for signs that we matter. A like on social media, a compliment from a colleague, a nod from a parent, and for a moment, it feels like oxygen. It fills something inside us. But just like that, it fades, and we're left chasing it all over again. That's the trap of external validation. It promises confidence but delivers dependence. It's a subtle addiction to applause that leaves you hollow when the room goes quiet. Stoicism teaches us that respect doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being aligned. Aligned with your values. Aligned with your truth. Aligned with something unshakable inside you. When you live for approval, you give others the power to build or break your sense of worth. And when they withdraw it, which they will, you're left wondering if you were ever enough in the first place. That's not confidence. That's captivity. I used to bend myself to fit into people's boxes. I wanted to be seen as smart, successful, likable, so I said what people wanted to hear. I dressed how they expected. I played the role perfectly. But the more I was praised, the more I felt lost. Because deep down, I wasn't being seen, I was being performed. And eventually, that performance exhausted me. Because when you seek validation from others, you're constantly negotiating who you are. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That's the kind of freedom Stoicism offers, the kind that says, you don't need the world's approval to live a life of purpose. You don't need to be admired to be anchored. You need to be honest with yourself. You need to know what matters to you. And live it, even when it's misunderstood. Especially when it's misunderstood. When you stop seeking validation, you make space for self-respect. You no longer need permission to feel worthy. You give that permission to yourself. And ironically, that's when people start to respect you more, not because you're trying to win them, but because you're finally being real. You speak with clarity. You walk with conviction. You're no longer edited for public consumption. You're whole, and that wholeness draws others in. It's not easy to break this habit. It means letting go of needing to be liked. It means risking judgment, rejection, even silence. But what you gain in return is far more valuable: freedom, peace, authenticity. You start living from the inside out, not outside in. You stop measuring your life by how others see you, and start shaping it by how it feels to truly be you. So the next time you catch yourself adjusting just to fit someone's expectation, pause, ask yourself, who am I trying to impress, and why? And then ask a deeper question. Is their approval more important than my peace? Choose alignment over applause. Choose values over vanity. Because validation fades, but self-respect, that stays. Live in a way that makes you proud when no one's clapping. Speak in a way that feels true even when no one agrees. Because when you stop needing others to tell you who you are, you finally get to become it. Lesson 6. Stop reacting to every insult. There's a quiet strength in someone who doesn't flinch when provoked. Who doesn't react when insulted. Who doesn't take the bait when someone's trying to pull them into a petty fight. That kind of strength isn't loud. It doesn't yell back. It doesn't rush to defend. It just sits there, solid, still, unbothered, and in that stillness, it radiates something powerful, something stoic. In a world where everyone is constantly triggered, constantly offended, constantly ready to clap back, the one who remains composed stands out like a mountain in a storm. Stoicism teaches us that not every insult deserves a reaction. In fact, most of them don't, because most insults say more about the person throwing them than the person they're aimed at. People lash out because they're hurt, insecure, afraid, or simply trying to feel in control. And when you react, you give them exactly what they want: your attention, your energy, your peace. I used to be that person who always responded. I'd fire back with something clever or cutting. I wanted the last word. I wanted to win, but all it ever got me was more stress, more drama, and more regret. It never actually gave me respect. Because the truth is, real respect doesn't come from defending your ego. It comes from showing that you don't need to. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That line is everything. You can't control what people say. You can't control how they treat you. But you can absolutely control how you choose to respond. And choosing not to respond? That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's self-respect. When someone insults you and you don't react, you are saying without words, "You don't have that kind of power over me." And that silence speaks louder than any comeback ever could. It shows that your self-worth isn't up for debate. It shows that your dignity isn't cheap. It shows that your peace isn't available for provocation. Does that mean you should be a doormat? No. It means you choose your battles. It means you protect your energy. It means you understand that not every fight is worth fighting. And not every comment deserves your time. Because when you engage with every insult, you lower yourself to the level of those trying to pull you down. And that's not where you belong. I've learned that the most powerful response to disrespect is no response at all. Not because you're afraid, but because you're free. Free from the need to prove anything. Free from the emotional chaos of others. Free from the drama that distracts you from your higher path. And people notice that. They feel it. They respect it. So the next time someone throws shade, criticizes you unfairly, or tries to get under your skin, pause, take a breath, and remember, you don't have to play their game. You don't have to stoop to their level. You don't have to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You have the right to rise above. Because your worth isn't determined by the noise around you. It's defined by the silence you hold inside, the steady calm that says, "I know who I am. And I refuse to be shaken by those who don't." Thank you for spending this time with me here on the Chill Stoic. If even one part of this message helped you breathe a little deeper or stand a little taller, then it was worth it. These aren't just lessons, they're reminders of the strength you already carry. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to fight to be respected. Sometimes, all it takes is stillness, awareness, and the decision to respond, not react. Until next time, stay calm, stay grounded, and stay stoic.